If you struggle with making people that you like back fall in love, this might be the method for you. If you notice that people come into your life and leave you, they're not consistent, where they show high interest and then all of a sudden pull away, you're not applying the slow drip method. This is actually the secret to make anybody fall in love. This works if you struggle standing out. Heck, this even works if the other person is more attractive than you are. This works if this person has a bunch of options. This method works. It literally pierces through all the other options and makes you stand out. And you don't have to be the best looking person. You don't have to be the hottest person. You don't have to have the biggest butt, the longest legs, none of that kind of stuff. This actually allows a person to fall in love with your soul, to the point that if there's somebody that's more attractive than you, they'll pick you over them. And the reason why is because we're going to be tapping into some psychological triggers that most people, even women, fall in love with men that are not their type with this method. And this is actually something that I've experienced when I was younger, where I fell in love with a girl who was completely not my type. She wasn't my type, right? And she applied this method without her even knowing it, and I ended up falling in love with her, right? And it's actually kind of interesting how that happened. Now, look, if you guys want to be able to apply these strategies and talk to me on the phone and apply the slow drip strategy, you guys can book a one-on-one phone call with me today. And for those who purchase 15 minutes of calls with me, you guys will also get access to my course, The Psychological Game of Attraction, where in that course, I teach you guys some of the strategies of how to go from single to being in a relationship, people. Yeah, that's right. So that's only for people who purchase 15 minutes or more sessions with me this week, today. All right. It's actually a special that I'm running for the month of November. So that means 15 30-minute sessions, 45-minute sessions, 1-hour sessions come with a free course. This is only available now, so do that or else I'm gonna have to close the channel. Let's continue with the video. You gotta understand, when people meet people online, they're usually just picking based on superficial types, and superficiality doesn't lead to long-term relationships. What leads to long-term relationships is getting to know people over time. The people who you love the most are people who you've known the most for the longest period of time. The people who are the most toxic to you, the people who are not good for you, are the people who you know for a short period of time. It's just that simple. So if I had to pick between you and a girl that is completely my type, the only way for me to pick you is if we have an emotional connection. When a woman is my type, a lot of the times you don't build an emotional connection because there's a lot of trauma masquerading as I like you. You remind me of someone who might have hurt me. You remind me of someone who traumatized me. You reminded me of someone who didn't love me back. And as a result, you are my type. I need to conquer someone that looks like you. So when you're swiping online, you're not gonna gain people's favor. It doesn't matter how attractive you are. If you're not their type, they're not going to pick you. And if they do pick you, they have so many options, and you don't stand out because you have no emotional salience. You have no emotional salience that they're not going to pick you over someone. Whenever you see a guy who's dating a woman who's a high value man, superficially speaking, in terms of money and power, people, I know emotional maturity is one of the high value traits, but in this case, a lot of times you'll notice that this man knew this woman for a long time and just accidentally fell in love with her. This is the accidental love method, people. It's true. It's truly one of the only ways where you will get someone who you usually wouldn't be able to get with. But in order to do that, there needs to be certain conditions that we're going to be talking about right now. I've seen women date guys that are 40 years older than them because of this method. I've seen dudes. I remember one time, one of my friends who I eventually offended big time. He was dating this girl who was like really not like, he was so above and beyond her, like in terms of look, like you could tell, like what the fuck. And the reason why he fell in love with her was because they went to school together for so many years, and then they started working as a videographer. And so they would go to a bunch of different locations over a 2-year span. That he told me that he ended up falling in love with her. And again, she wasn't his type. I've seen the women he dated. She wasn't his type. Right? This method allows people to fall in love in a healthy way because it's not based on looks. It's not based on who you remind me of. It's based on your soul. They literally fall in love with your soul. Let's start this, man. If this method is to work, this method works only under certain conditions. It's contextual. All right. First of all, you can't do this on somebody that you meet online. It will not work with online dating because there's just way too many options. You're gonna fade into the background, right? The next thing is that they can't know that you like them before you guys even interact. This cannot be something where your friend sets you up with somebody else. This is not going to work on them, right? Because a big portion of this is them finding out you like them over time. That's actually what solidifies this and makes it so unique. The real reason why most people don't stand out is simply because the people that stand out are those that they don't know if you like them or not. There's a mystery that I can't read you. By me not being able to read whether or not you like me, that will instantly make you stand out in the person's mind. This is why online dating, you're not going to use this with online dating, right? Now, why is that? The slow realization is very important. They need to realize that you like them over time. So no setting up by your friend, no him approaching you at the club, none of that stuff. You want to start off as friends. The friend you start off as friends, right? The reason why is because most people who date people, most of them don't know them through this method. Most people meet people through being set up or meeting them online, and they never experience that uncertainty, that I don't know if you like me back type of thing. That phase of the mating process is vitally important, right? To stand out. The slow drippers are the ones that stand out. Most people have no resistance for slow drippers, meaning if they find you relatively attractive, as long as they find you relatively attractive, you may not be their type. They might like people who have long hair that are blonde with big hands, and you might have black hair and short hands. They might fall in love with you despite you not being their type, because humans don't have psychological defenses against this. They really don't. So why is this method so powerful? Well, because one, you don't have to try. In fact, if you actually try to get them to like you through this method, you will end up looking weird. You will end up looking incongruent. People can sense you're doing something, right? When you try to behave differently, people sense it because it feels weird. It's not that they know you're acting weird, that you're acting differently. It just feels weird. It doesn't feel congruent, right? So that's the first thing with this method, is that you have to not try. You have to not try. And this is actually the hardest part of this method, the not trying part, because sometimes you try not to try because you're trying. And this is why people tend to fall in love with you when you're not paying attention to them. People tend to fall in love with you when you don't even know they exist. We want to be able to bring some of that quality into this, right? The conscious part of it, right? The next thing is that if you're not their type, it will still work. So this is my favorite part about this, because I've talked to guys, I've taught this strategies to guys, right? Mostly to women. But with guys, this tends to work. Now the problem is that you risk being in the friend zone, and there's nothing wrong with that. But essentially, this is the only way to go if you know you're not their type. This is the only way to go. If you know they like black guys and you're white, this is the only method that will penetrate those psychological preferences and those defenses. And the next thing is that the love that arises from this method is long-term. It's not based on trauma. It's not based on you being sad. It's not based on you getting them jealous of you. It really isn't. It's just that time becomes your friend with this method. Time has a quality, has a certain effect on your face. It rounds your face. It makes you look more friendlier. What you'll notice is that the way they look at you after 2 months of consistently seeing you will be very different than the way they see you on the first date, right? The next thing is like how long you see them will be different than how you see someone who's your type. In other words, they're gonna start liking you, but it's not gonna be the same type of liking, I suppose, when you're their type. When you're their type, they instantly like you. They instantly like you. But when you're not their type, this method will cause them to not feel that they like you, but that over time, they'll start to notice that they think of you more. Over time, they start to notice that the thought of you makes them happy. Why is that? Well, because they just get used to you. And a part of this method is just spending time with them consistently. And this is why this method is so unique. You know the Pam effect, right? The Pam effect, which is Pam in The Office was cute, right? But if you saw Pam around other women outside of work, you notice that Pam, in reality, she's average, right? But she had the office effect simply because Jim saw her every day and then saw her in contrast to other women that were less attractive to her, and it solidified within that world that she's really attractive. So it doesn't matter if an attractive woman approaches Jim at the store, he is still gonna find Pam more attractive for the simple fact that one, he sees her every day, and two, the contrast between her and her other workers creates this illusion, which is love, that makes him pick her over any other woman he meets outside of work. In fact, people tend to cheat on their partners with the people that they work with or go to school with, or who they're consistently seeing as friends. Like, this method is why people get divorced. This method is why people tend to ruin their lives, because they don't know that if you see someone long enough, consistently enough, and there's enough conflict every now and then, you will eventually might fall in love with them. Naturally, you will start to mimic how they talk. They'll start to mimic how you talk. They'll start to copy the words that you use, your habits, even the way that you dress. That's how you know you're getting into them. You'll notice they use your phrases. You'll notice they'll eat the things that you eat. They'll take the things that you take, right? They'll go to the places that you go. They'll take your suggestions. They'll read the books that you read. Over time, they'll start to mimic you, mimic your body language, mimic everything. And they're in that process, as they're mimicking you, they're not going to notice they're falling in love with you. You're going to notice you're mimicking them. They're mimicking you, but they're not going to notice that they're mimicking you, right? Their thoughts will revolve around you more consistently. And then the beauty about this is that naturally, when there is absence, right? Because most jobs or most school, you don't see them all the time. When you're not around is when their minds begins to look for you. They are used to you. They see you every day. When you're not there, they don't feel comfortable, right? Understand this. This method doesn't create a high in your presence. They're not around you and they don't feel this crazy strong chemistry. What makes them realize that they're falling in love with you is when you guys take a break and they realize there's a tiny emptiness in their heart in your absence. It's not that you make them feel high, because that's what their types do. Their types create a high. Their types create a strong chemistry. This type of attraction is only felt in their absence. You only notice that you love them once they're not there. You long to see them. And that's the beauty about this, right? Because once you come back after prolonged absence, you could easily tell if they like you. When they see you, they might touch you more. When they talk to you, they might ask you more things about you. You'll notice they start to ask questions. But this only happens during prolonged moments of absence. The key to applying this is do not let them know they like you. You could send mixed signals by the way you look at them, the way you give them a gift, or maybe you pay extra attention to them at work or at school. They realize that maybe you might be interested, right? You might give them that thing that they like at the job. You might give them that cracker that they like. The extra attention gets people wondering, right? But just make sure that the extra attention from time to time, you ignore them every now and then, right? One, because you can't be paying too much attention to someone. You could get in trouble, but also it gives them space to chase you back. And you'll notice that they'll want to be friends with you. What happens is that over time, people start to develop work wives, not housewives, school wives. You know what I'm saying? Where at school, you have that one person who you get along with the most. And you might think is innocent, But I can promise you, if at the peak of the comfort that you feel with them, at the peak of the happiness and the sense of comfort of working or going to school with them, what it does to you when they start going out, or maybe they tell you they dated someone or they went on a date, well, you'll notice you might feel jealous without even noticing. You might feel jealous without even noticing. With this method also, I don't want you to feel sad if they date other people, because most of the people that they start dating, even as they know you, most of the time it may not work out. I'm just letting you know, most of the time it may not work out. That's how people are. But also it'll give you contrast. They meet people short term and then they hang out with you, someone that they know long term. Their brain values you more, man. I'm telling you, man. Their brain values you more. As long as you're decently attractive, you don't have to be their type. As long as you're appealing to the eye, this method will crystallize how they see you in their minds and give you a unique place, like an altar, a place where only you belong. This slow drip method does that. What you want to be able to do also with this method is not just see them every day. All right? Not just share moments together, little moments. I don't want you to go on a fucking roller coaster ride together. I just want you to eat together every now and then. Have coffee together every now and then. Go to the store consistently. As long as it's something consistent where you guys have lunch together consistently, as long as it's consistent and there's a consistent pattern, whenever they're doing that and you don't participate because of absence, they'll feel your absence. And each time that happens, the love they have for you could potentially intensify, right? So low periods, for example, you being depressed or them being depressed, right? You're going through something difficult and you share with them, or vice versa. Maybe there's conflict. Maybe they piss you off or you pissed them off. That's really good, right? Maybe there's absence. Maybe you had to go on vacation and you had a 2-week absence from work. They had to go to work. They had to go to school without you. They can fear your absence. It's like my friend in school. Many years ago, I had a guy, my best friend in ESL got transferred to the main class because he learned English. I was so sad when he left because that was my friend. And I even cried. I act like I had something in my eye, but I cried because I'm like, I'm gonna miss out my friend, my only friend here, right? His name was Wilfredo. He's a dentist now. And so it made me realize how much I loved him as a friend, and so I cried. It didn't happen when he was there. It was just that you get used to people and their absence hurts more than their presence provides pleasure. Other moments when this happens is during holidays, during Christmas, during New Year's Eve, especially if they don't have too much family. These moments during the holidays, Thanksgiving, will allow them to start to experience the after effects, meaning the falling in love process of you spending time together. Because what you're doing is that you're spending so much time together. It's like for a drought or even for a moment of famine, right? And all of those moments get added up in your absence, during the holidays, during conflict, during low periods when you're really depressed and you need someone, so you go to your work wife for comfort. All of those things is what causes people to fall in love, right? Now, I want you to realize that there's a limit to this. If the person if you're noticing that they're not falling in love, or they don't make a move, or they don't ask you out after 6 months, might as well abort, right? But in this process, I want you to date other people. I don't want you to be fixated on this person. As you date other people, your interest in them will go up and down, which will allow you to act distant from time to time, to pull away from time to time. It'll give you the emotional flexibility that if you're dating someone and if you're dating someone, you'll naturally pull away from them a little bit. And you will notice that if you do that, you will notice a behavior change in them. You will notice it. Remember, love happens over time. Lust happens temporary. Once this method works, if this has happened to you, what you will notice is this. The way you look at them will be very different. You're not going to look at them like somebody who you meet online. You're not going to look at them like, oh my God, she's so fucking sexy. Oh my God, he's so hot. You're not going to look at them that way. You're going to look at them and they're going to create this fuzzy feeling in you. It's not going to make them look hot. They're just going to look more comforting to you. That will create love. That will create love. But what I want you to do is to make sure that you don't try. You have to be your natural self. If you're too self-conscious, people are going to look through you and you're going to fuck up eventually with this method. You're going to mess up. I've taught this to guys to get out of the friend zone, and it does work. It works. It works like a charm, right? From what I've seen, it works 25% of the time with guys, with the caveat that she has to find you. You have to be relatively attractive to her. Like, it cannot be that she's a 10 and you're a 5, or he's a 10 and you're a 5. Like that. It doesn't work that way. There has to be you have to be within that range of attractiveness that they prefer in someone, right? And now look, if you guys want to be able to apply this method and you don't know how to, you guys can actually check out my course, The Psychological Game of Attraction and Natural Chemistry. Or you could purchase them you could purchase them at 50% off by clicking on the description down below where it says purchase both of them, right? And also, if you got anybody that purchases a one-on-one session with me this week, they will also get a free access to the Psychological Game of Attraction. So if you guys work with me one-on-one, you guys will get a free access to that course. So just click on the description down below where it says work with me one-on-one. And you guys can check out my new course, The Feminine Woman. It's a course that I created to help you guys embrace your femininity without letting it sabotage you. I'll teach you guys how to embrace your masculine without sabotaging you. Where a lot of women are too masculine and lose their feminine charm. Where some women are so feminine where men just cannot respect them. It's actually really difficult. But in this course, I teach you guys the delicate balance of the masculine and the feminine in a woman, where you get the benefits of being feminine, but also the benefits of combining your femininity with your masculinity. Honestly, there's no woman, the women who combine these two traits appropriately are unstoppable. Men just fall in love with them, all right? Or you could purchase all of my courses by purchasing the Mindful Attraction University bundle. By clicking on the description down below, you can get all of my courses, including the Charisma Blueprint and Emotional Mastery on top of the last courses that I've told you about. All right? Anyways, I'll see you guys inside.